Okay, the next thing we need to talk about is what's called coterminal angles. Coterminal angles have the same terminal side. So for example, if I have a 42-degree angle, can you guys name any angles that are, what's wrong? Oh, sorry. Okay, so how would I find a different name for that same angle? By going around the circle again or going the other direction. Okay, we can find coterminal angles by adding or subtracting 360 degrees. Yeah. So, give me some other options for coterminal angles with 42. I chose 42 because it's the answer to the universe and everything. Read Hitchhiker's Guide if you didn't understand that. Okay. So what did you say was another one? 402. So that would be going all the way around once plus an additional 42 degrees. So 402 degrees. What if we went and what if we subtracted 360? So take 42 and subtract 360. What angle would it be if we go backwards? 318 degrees, right? Actually, negative. Negative 318. Because we went backwards. You don't like this?
No, I just like why is it? How could it be now?
Okay, the idea, here's what we're leading up to. We're leading up to trigonometric functions. With trigonometric functions, we have stuff like sine x, cosine x, tangent x, like y equals sine x, y equals cosine x, y equals tangent x. X is the domain, and it's all real numbers. That means we can plug in numbers from negative infinity to positive infinity because we can go around and around the circle infinitely many times, positive or negative. Yeah, that's what it has to do with. Okay, let's do some examples like you're going to see on your homework today. Are the angles 190 and negative 170, are those two angles coterminal?
No.
How do you figure it out?
Yes, it is.
There's a couple of different ways you could figure it out. You could just take 360 and add it to negative 170 and see if you get 190. So if we go negative 170 plus 360 and that gives us 190, then the answer is yes. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. The way that your book does it is a weird way, but you don't have to do it this way. I'm just going to show you what they do. Basically, they take the starting angle and say, this is coterminal if we can add or subtract some number of 360 degrees. So what they do is 360k, where k represents any integer. Okay? So if k is a positive 1, that means you would add 360 to that number. But if k was a negative 1, you would end up adding a negative 360. Okay? So if we want that to be negative 170, now let's go ahead and solve for k. So subtract your 190 from both sides. So you get 360k equals negative 360. So what does k equal? Negative 1. So since k is an integer, k ended up as an integer. What's an integer? Positive or negative whole numbers. So because that ended up as a whole number, the answer is yes. Because if it hadn't been being able to add or subtract 360 to get that number, then it wouldn't be an exact integer of k. Anyway, that's more confusing than just experimenting and figuring it out that way. But I'm just showing you the technical side of it, because we are going to be dealing with k sometimes. Okay, one more thing we want to talk about this that they will ask you about, so we need to review something really fast. If you need to write this down on your orange card in order to remember it, please do so. But we need to remember the fact that this quadrant is called quadrant 1. This one is called quadrant 2. This one is called quadrant 3. And this one is called quadrant 4. And it's very, very important that you know those in your sleep. That you know those without having to blink an eye or stopping to think about it at all, because that's going to be essential. Okay, so here's another question for you. What quadrant contains 230 degrees? Good job. So Q3. Okay, here's a harder one. Negative 580 degrees. Okay, I heard someone say, how did I do that? Okay, remember how earlier we were labeling our chart? And we know that this is 0, and this is 90, and this is 180, and this is 270, and this is 360. So 230 falls between 180 and 270, which is quadrant 3. Okay, so that one is easy, and you should start being able to just go. If your number is between 0 and 360, it should be really fast to know what quadrant it's in. Okay? This one's a little more complicated. How are we going to figure out what quadrant that one's in? If we minus 360, then we're going to get a larger negative number. Yeah. So we should probably add 360, which does what for us? What do we get? 220? Isn't it a negative, though? Why am I getting confused on my negatives and positives all of a sudden? Negatives, negatives. That's right, okay. Okay, so negative 220. You could figure it out from that just based on the fact that you have to go this direction, so that would be, yes, you're right, Kyle, quadrant 1. But it might be easier to actually add 360 again. So 40 degrees. Correct? So that one is quadrant 1. This is going to be something you're also going to need to be very comfortable with, is taking angles that are not between 0 and 360 and changing them to an angle that is between 0 and 360. Because that makes it much easier to understand and work with. Okay, last thing we need to learn. I'm going to stop this video